Hello, and welcome to Women in Business, where we interview entrepreneurs and senior managers and show you the strengths, successes, obstacles, and roadblocks women experience in business. Since I believe every person in business needs to be visible, I'd like to invite you to watch www.sob6, that's the number 6, tips.com, which will give you some valuable information should you get the call to be on radio or TV, which I think is extremely important. If you'd like to contact me personally, drop me a line at Gayle Carson, that's Gayle, Gayle Carson 13 at gmail.com, or go to my website, www.spunkyoldbroad.com, and sign up for my weekly newsletter.
Hi, everybody. I have a great guest today, Jody Cross. For over 30 years, she's been public speaking and training others to take speaking to the next level. Her approach is to teach people how to focus on their audiences because every group of listeners is different. She wrote a book on public speaking called Leaders Speak, which became an Amazon bestseller. And her key to success is giving God control of everything in her life, including giving him veto power. Welcome to the show, Jody.
Thank you, Gayle.
Well, as a professional speaker for many years, in fact, before I went into professional speaking, Jody, I had done 10,000 free speeches because that's how I built my first business. So I can appreciate what you're doing. And of course, most people are scared to death to get up in front of anyone and say anything. And that's, of course, how you get noticed. So let's start off with what kind of problems you help your clients solve.
Sure. They want to be in front of the right kind of people frequently enough. And obviously, public speaking is very efficient because they can speak to many potential clients or customers at one time. But they don't always know how to do that in the right way, really make deeper connections with their listeners and do it quickly. So then it takes more touches or more speeches or more meetings, or they have to sort of luck out that they have people in their audiences that are a lot like them. And that's just not usual because everybody is different. And so what I basically help them solve is how do they understand this group of listeners and how they're different from the next group of listeners, and how do they use that understanding to tailor their communication or speaking to the actual listeners that are there with them right then.
Interesting. That's a lot to do with somebody that's not confident in speaking. So what kind of results do they get?
When people do this, sure. When people do this tailoring to their audience much more specifically, they tend to have a better rapport with their audience. They tend to start relationships faster with listeners. If they already know their listeners, then they tend to enhance the relationship to be faster and deeper, more. And then the results they get are they literally get hired more. They get referred more. So sometimes people that hear them speak when they've connected well with their audience, maybe that listener doesn't need what they do, but someone that they tell about it, that person needs them. So you can actually get referred to a person and hired because of a strong public speech when the person that's hiring you wasn't even in the audience. They were just referred by someone who was. And then they get respected more in their field, all of those things leading to more revenue.
Well, it's interesting because I know the impact that public speaking can have. But do you cater to a particular kind of client, or are they across the board?
They're across the board. Some people would say that's a weakness of mine, and I suppose they would be right because I don't have a very, very narrowed niche. But I tell you what, I just love the variety. So I do love coaching coaches, and it could be financial coaches, nutrition coaches, business coaches, anyone that the way they're speaking is to educate or teach or train. But I get a lot of people, of course, and that could be business owners, could be executives or sales reps, and it could be, all different types within business owners because they're all doing their own sales. And so I really like that I get a variety of fields and a variety of levels of people and personality types.
Well, it's interesting because, they say riches and niches, but you do have a niche. You're teaching public speaking, or training them in that area. That is a niche. I mean, you could get really well defined down by going down to the particular kind of coach that you work with. But I think that you certainly have a niche, and that's for sure. So, what give us an example of a client success story so people can understand exactly what you achieve and how you do it.
Sure. So one of my clients, this was an actual individual client who came to me for his help with public speaking, and she's an accountant running her own business. And so she had employees. She was part of a networking group. She did speaking. She had some nervousness. She wanted to be better organized, and she wanted to have more confidence than she had so that her strengths could show through and she would stand out from other accounting businesses. And so when we worked on teaching her how to understand the audiences that she was in front of, how to treat them differently and use their wording and examples and stories that they would relate to better, she still does what she does like any other business, but she learned how to take the pieces of her expertise and experience and emphasize the ones that group of listeners cared most about and how they could actually hire her or refer to her. So not only did it work well and she got more confident in her speaking and got better results and hired more often and her business grew, 5 years later, her speaking had grown so much from where we had started together that she told me that she was now doing impromptu speeches, which is one of the hardest types, to over 300 people at chamber events. She presented to state representatives. She would get compliments on her speaking and her humor shining through, which was partly because of her confidence increasing, and that she'd become so good at engaging audiences and so comfortable that she ended up actually really enjoying speaking and looking forward to it instead of dreading it. And then, of course, continued to have success build upon that success.
So why do you think what you do is so different from other public speaking courses or methods of public speaking, etc.?
Sure. So a lot of people ask me about Toastmasters and if I'm similar to that. And while we both teach people to speak, and I would say an advantage of Toastmasters is that people that are involved in it tend to speak frequently, which is one good way to improve, to just do it more often so you do get more comfortable. But a difference is they're very speaker focused. So they have a lot of contests, and then they teach or they talk to their same audiences frequently. So it's a little bit more fabricated, where what I'm teaching people to do is not have, a canned script that you deliver it the same exact way no matter who's listening. I'm teaching them how to tweak their message for this audience and then tweak it for the next. So they're repeating the process of tailoring to who they're actually talking with and who they're actually speaking to or in front of. And that tailoring is the key. I used to teach public speaking at colleges, and I probably used a dozen different speaking books over the years. And they would have one tiny little section of a chapter on analyzing your audience. And to me, it's the whole ball game, because the listeners matter more than the speaker, and they care more about their own lives than the speaker's life.
Well, that's for sure. And as a professional speaker myself, we know that you don't memorize anything. You know your key points.
Yes.
You have your things that you've got to address, but you're probably going to change the stories depending on who your audience is and what's important to them and how you approach everything. So what you're doing is right on target, because when something is memorized and your mind goes blank, you just cannot get back to where you wanted to go.
Right.
But
Absolutely.
You taught in colleges. I'm going to ask you a really important question. What do you wish you'd known earlier as a woman business owner and author? Because we all look back in hindsight and say, "Oh, I wish I could have. I wish I should. I wish. So what do you wish you had known earlier?"
Sure. I wish I had known to just accept help from people that want to help you. I'm part of BNI, Business Network International, and it's an organization whose slogan is Givers Gain. So I love the idea of helping other people in their work and their businesses get what they need. But I didn't want to bother people, by asking for what I might need or could use help with. So I got a lot of indirect advice because I didn't know what I didn't know. I didn't know what to even ask. I'd been public speaking for so long that I didn't need any help with my content, but I knew nothing about being a business owner. I mean, just nothing. I had no experience in business or what all that entailed. So I didn't even know what questions to ask. So I think, when you let people help you and ask as many questions as you can, they like to help. People like to help each other. It's a really great aspect of human nature. And when you let people help you, you learn more faster and more quickly. And then it helps you stretch out of your own comfort zone. And the faster and more you do that, the faster and more you'll grow. It's really hard to grow if you're only doing what you already know.
Well, that's true. I mean, um, sometimes you have to beware of those people that are trying to help you, because there are a lot of people out there that can give you advice that you really shouldn't be taking. But if someone comes and this person is ethical and has high morals and can really give you a shortcut to do something, which is always nice. That is certainly a big deal. So you wrote this book, Leaders Speak. How did you go about writing it? What inspired you? And tell us a little bit about the book itself.
Sure. So I had been working with clients, and my husband said to me, you should really write a book on public speaking. I said, you mean a workbook of the tools I use with my clients? He said, no, I mean a business book for public speaking, because your program is different from what other people are doing, and teaching people how to tailor their messages to your audience isn't what other people are teaching. So you need to put it down on paper so that you can reach more people with it. At the time, I felt like when three people I trust tell me the same thing, that was God telling me to get moving. I've since shortened that to two. Let's catch on a little bit faster. And so I did have three other people separate from my husband tell me I should write a book. And so I went, okay, I guess I need to do this. And the founder of BNI, Business Network International, that I was a part of and a trainer for, Ivan Meisner, suggested that I get on a call that was a quick little workshop for authors. And basically, they just forced you to answer fast questions and what your highlights are and what would then under those highlights be the next highlights. And basically, I came out of it with a table of contents. It was sort of a sketched out outline that I could then assign stories to. Well, this client would be a good example of this, and this group from corporate would be a good example of this. And I could assign stories to it. And then a business coach told me, just write one paragraph a day. Just sit down, carve out a few minutes, and write one paragraph every single day. And what you'll find is you never write only one paragraph. Now that worked for me. I know that a lot of people do the opposite. They will just hunker down for an entire weekend and write all day for 2 or 3 days straight. So there's no magic formula, but I will say it definitely worked for me to just write some amount every day.
Well, I know that I tell people, everybody has a book inside them, but getting it out is something else. So supposing you wrote one typewritten page every day, that's 365 pages at the end of the year. Now, out of those 365 pages, at least half have got to be worth something. So you've got a 150-page, book or whatever. So that to me is a great way to do it, and that's what you did, and that worked out for you.
Love it.
You said that you had the challenge of not knowing how to run a business. And I have to tell you, I went into business. I was 21 years old, and I had never had a business course in my life. My entire background was was theatrics and broadcasting and the stage and dancing and music and all of that.
Nice.
But you get baptized very fast. I was in
Right.
business only 2 weeks when I got a cease and desist order from my biggest competitor, who just thought I was going to be this big threat, which I thought was hilarious because, I mean, I was so young and I had just gone into business. But it wasn't hilarious because I had to hire an attorney and learn how to operate a business a certain way and so forth and so on. But, what were some of the other challenges that you faced when you started running your business? What was the biggest obstacles that you faced? Because our listeners always want to know how our successful business owners got through all of that.
Me, it's hard to, what I call, do selling of self. So this is my program. I created it. It doesn't exist anywhere else. And while I believe in it and I'm very passionate about it, I don't want to come across as arrogant or pushy because I don't care for feeling like someone's pushing me or being arrogant with me. So that's a tough thing when, especially when you're a solopreneur and you're the main one talking about what you do. That's why I think networking groups can help, where they're helping you and you're helping them, and that sense of allowing people to help you and letting them spread the word and being willing to ask people that you trust and they trust you to tell people they know about what you can do, because it's just so hard to know what is the right amount of being assertive and what's going to be a little too much and turn people off.
Well, that's true. But other than not understanding what a business was about, what would you say was your biggest challenge?
I really think that is it, Gayle. I just felt like selling myself just felt uncomfortable. So I had to tell people about what I can do, or I won't be able to help anyone. No one, you don't have any visibility if nobody knows that you're out there, right?
Yeah, you're saying calling attention to yourself is difficult for you. And see, that is so opposite from what I thought, because I always was a performer. I've been on stage since I was 3 years old, so it was very natural for me. But that didn't mean anybody was listening. That's the whole other thing, too, is you can tell everybody everything, but you've got to have somebody that's listening. So what led you to get into speaking in the first place?
So I always felt like it was an other-oriented activity, and it seemed like others didn't. That it was, they were getting on stage because they wanted to say something, and I was getting on stage thinking, why is the audience here to listen? What's their why? What's their purpose in coming to this conference or this event? And so to me, it was about figuring them out so that I could provide some kind of information that they might actually find useful and not just, hear my own voice or hear myself talk. And so when I realized that there are a lot of speakers out there that just don't do that, I believe that most of them want to help their audience. And so they go as far as thinking, what would I want to hear if I were in the audience? But again, then you have to be a lot like your audience. Otherwise, you need to think, they're different from me. So what do they want to hear? What did they come here hoping to find out or discover or learn? And when you can do that, then it's different. So you have a better connection and they care more, about it. So I got into it because so many speakers were just doing sort of a canned speech and it sounded the same no matter who was listening. And there'd be some information that would be okay, but audiences didn't know what to do with it. So they might be kind of highly charged when they left a speech or, a training or something, but a little while later, maybe a week or a month or certainly a year later, were they really doing anything different? Did it change anything for them? If not, then everybody's time was really wasted.
Well, I agree with you there. I mean, I do think that most speakers speak because of their passion, what they want to get out to the audience, and don't necessarily take into effect what the audience wants. They think they know what the audience wants, but they don't really know what the audience wants. So
Right.
that makes a big difference. And that, I guess, is really what differentiates you from everybody else that is doing that. So you said that really coaches are one of your biggest markets, whether they're financial or business or nutrition or fitness or whatever. What have you found was the biggest hang up for most coaches?
So coaches will sometimes have the same hang up I do, where they know that they have something to give and something that they can help people with, but they feel a little funny selling themselves because it's usually they feel like, well, why should someone find me credible to teach them something, right? So that's one of them, and then the other is they don't maybe know how to tailor as much for different people. So people learn differently, they hear things differently, they're going to use information and skills differently. So just like speaking, coaching isn't really a one size fits all cookie cutter kind of situation. And you have to think of what's going to be good for everybody, but you also have to think of some examples that will provide some variety so that they can see themselves in your stories.
That is so true. So let me ask you, how do you go about finding out the information about your audiences?
Yes. So let's just say for a coach that is going to be doing business coaching for a client company, and the coach goes to the client's website and they look at what that company sells or produces or makes, and maybe they look at something that the history of that company, that how did their client get started. And what I want them to look for is who is their client company. Things like anything they put on the homepage is important to them. If they list a mission, that's important to them. If they list a vision, that's important to where they see themselves or are heading. If they list values, that's their absolute priorities. If they have sent things to the media, those things are important to them. So instead of merely looking at what your client sells or produces, look at who they are and how they distinguish themselves from their competitors. That way, a coach or a trainer or a speaker, any of them, who looks at a client that way, they're going to understand that client better. They're already going to tailor their message a little bit to them that way. They're going to tailor their questions to them, and they're going to answer their clients' questions in a more tailored way just from understanding that difference of information.
So, Jody, since you provide all this valuable information for everybody, where can people find you? Where can they go to find more about Jody Cross?
Sure. So the website is www.leadersspeak.com. And it's two S's in the middle. So leaders is plural, LEADERSSPEAK.com. And you can see in there the type of workshops and coaching and speaking that I do. And then if you want to email me, it's jody@leadersspeak.com.
Jody Y, right?
Yep, jody@leadersspeak.com. Yep.
Oh, Jody, right, okay.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know if you have a gift for our audience or there's something you'd like to leave them with. Is there something special that you would like to offer them?
Sure. So my book is being converted soon to an ebook, and I'm happy to provide a complimentary copy of the ebook when it's done for any of your listeners as just a connection or appreciation or tips or whatever they want to email me and put in the subject line complimentary ebook or ebook question mark, either of those. And that way I can know who would like to receive a complimentary copy when it's ready to go. And I'm happy to send them that just for being good listeners for you.
Fantastic. So if you email her at Jody, Jody, at Leaders Speak, there's two S's in there, leadersspeak.com, put in your subject line free ebook or ebook or whatever, something like that, so she'll know what it is. When it's ready, which hopefully, though, Jody won't be too long,
Yes.
she'll get it out to you, and it probably is going to help you a great deal, because I would think with her approach to how she does things, it would really help you in making your presentations, whatever it is. Now, we have just about a minute left, Jody. Is there anything that we have not talked about that you would like our audience to know?
So I want to commend your listeners on tuning into your show, Gayle, because the idea of learning and stretching your own knowledge and your own comfort zones is something that Gayle can help you do. So listening and continuing to tune in to Gayle's show will continue to make a difference in how you see things and expanding your own horizons, which then help you with your own audiences, clients, customers, whatever that is. So keep tuning into Gayle's show, because it's going to be a difference maker for you.
Well, thank you for that, Jody, and thank you for being with us today. And listeners, remember, go to her website or go to her email and request that free book. Thanks so much for being with us today,
My
Jody.
pleasure, Gayle. Thanks so much. Appreciate it.
Hi, this is Dr. Gayle, and I wanted you to know I have a whole bunch of other things to offer you. If you go to spunkyoldbroad.com, you will see an array of SOB stuff for sale and all our latest products and additions. If you're interested in getting on TV, I have a brand new course, Get on TV. And if you want to start your own business, you'll want my SOB Guide to Business Success. I know you'll love them all. I guarantee it.
Thanks for listening to Women in Business. I hope you enjoyed today's show. And if you have any suggestions as to who you'd like me to have as a guest, just email me at GayleCarson13@gmail.com. Be sure to check out www.sob6tips.com. And in the meantime, go to www.spunkyoldbroad.com to see the resources I have for you.